What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video here. So today we're going to be talking about the Wildstalker for Resto Druid. Okay, we get so many questions on it all, and you know I've learned a lot playing a little bit more Wildstalker these days for different types of builds, different play styles. I know we get so many questions about other builds that other players have been using for Wildstalker, and what are my thoughts on it. So I thought I'd just make a video so get all my thoughts out there. And yeah, so I'll quickly explain kind of the gist of Wildstalker, how to get the most out of it, and then some example of the builds that I use with it. You can use them, you don't have to use them, but just some examples of when I do use Wildstalker myself. All right. So just to start off here, Wildstalker, this is obviously the feral resto hybrid, so you're going to get some cat form based abilities in here. But the gist of it is Rip and Rake give you a dot on the target, and your Wild Growth, Regrowth, and F-Low can have a chance to give a hot on your target. Also, your Swift Mend, taking this out, you're going to take this, by the way, will automatically guarantee you get a bloom on that target for 8 seconds. And then while that bloom is on your target, you heal them for 20% more. So that's kind of the gist of the healing of Wildstalker. The damage is kind of mediocre, to be honest. Any damage increase that you do get here, you obviously get a little more healing in cat form as well. So important thing to know is the Symbiotic Bloom does count as an additional hot, so counting towards your mastery as an additional bonus, as well as getting that 20% buff while it's up. So you're getting an extra hot. Wildstalker will get better as the season goes on. It does seem to feel a little bit lackluster in terms of throughput sometimes currently, but as we get more gear and we get more mastery, it's going to scale exponentially. Resto Druid always scales exponentially just because of how the mastery works, okay? Yeah, and so making sure when you are playing it, just quick, you know, gameplay wise, make sure you are keeping your regrowth on all the targets as possible. You know, so if you have 5 life bloom on like this guy, and I can't do that guy. Let's say like this guy. No, I can't do that guy. Everybody's freaking horde, huh? Whatever it is. Okay, I got my 2 life ones up. I regrowth myself, so it regrowths all of these guys, and make sure regrowth is staying on as many targets as possible so that you can proc these. Also, do not forget that F-Low and Wild Growth exist. Okay, I know those are 2 spells that you don't really use in PvP at all, but being able to throw down an F-Low and stand in it, I already procced one right there. Actually, I don't know if that was up already, but having an extra chance to proc one of these things is actually really beneficial. And having Wild Growth, so if you actually really need like maximum throughput, you can actually put all 3 on your target as once. Watch, not one of them is gonna proc now. Of course not, but just note that if you can maximize it by kind of throwing up all those hots at once, and just try to maximize the opportunity to get these blooms, and they can stack on top of each other. So really good healing throughput when you do get all of that kind of encompassing itself. So that's kind of the gist of how Wildstalker works, and do make sure that you are getting those Swift Mends off on cooldown. You can double dip that with potentially running Prosperity. Quick note about Prosperity, because I get a lot of questions about it, because honestly I thought this when I first did it too, but after you just take a step back and look at it logically, it doesn't really make sense. So Swift Mend having 2 charges, personally I don't think this is worth it at all, because yes, you get 2 charges in the beginning of it, but if you are Swift Mending on cooldown, which typically you are in 3s and shuffle specifically, 2s and BGs, you can definitely kind of argue the other way around, but if you are Swift Mending on cooldown, you don't get any more Swift Mends than you normally would. So you get 2 off the beginning, and if you are Swift Mending off cooldown, you are not getting any benefit from this talent whatsoever after that. So I do prefer Verdant Infusion, also because the current meta is very purge heavy. Preservation Invoker is obviously the best healer going into the season. You have Disc Priest being very good, Frost Mages are really good, Ellie Shamans are good, Devastation's good, Aug's good. Like all of these massively purging classes are really good right now, which is going to be very tough for Druid. I can probably tell you already. If you haven't been playing yourself, you're probably sick of queuing 2 Evokers already. But yeah, so VI is personally going to be my pick up there. But yes, you can play Prosperity. I think in 2s, it has a decent use for at least myself, because I'm usually in cat form and long enough that I'm not Swift Mending on cooldown all the time. I don't really feel a need to. But in 3s and Solo Shuffle, pretty much always using this on cooldown. So yeah, do what you will on that. And then also our tier set is going to kind of coincide with all of this. So our tier set is your healing is increased by, it'll be 4% when consuming Soul of the Forest, and for 6 seconds afterwards. So it's kind of cool how all this works together. So you're getting 20% more healing when you have a bloom on your target. You're getting it guaranteed from a Swift Mend. and then for your Solar Forest, which is already a buff spell, you're getting even more bonus healing on top of that. So you're gonna have really powerful Solar Forest going into this, and especially pairing these with Rejuves, with Rejuve being a lot stronger now. When you have all of these hots stacked up, the throughput's going to be really, really high, especially as we continue to get more mastery going into this. So make sure you guys are, utilizing that, and don't be afraid to, like I said, kind of just recap it. Don't be afraid to throw out F-lows here and there. Just be wary of your mana. If you're playing certain builds that aren't running Master Shapeshifter, you might not be worth the mana cost. But like for myself in 2s, I virtually never go So if I do need that throughput, I'll throw down the F-low. I'll wild growth myself behind a pillar. I'll do what I need to do to get as much healing as possible through that. All right, so that is kind of the gist of Wildstalker in general. You can, also just a little thing to throw out here again, making sure that you do use Dispel on cooldown if possible. Don't Dispel, just obviously if they might poly your teammate, you don't want to just Dispel and waste your Dispel, but if you don't need to Dispel when you can. So because you get a free combo point and you get 4% of your max health back, or if you're full health, to your teammate. It's kind of nice. Sparks getting some extra movement speed, and yeah, the damage and everything is just kind of nice. Make sure you're playing Resilient Portfolio Stream for that extra 2 seconds, because we need as much bonus healing as possible on there. All right, so that's kind of the gist of Wildstalker, how it works. What do I play Wildstalker with? So I play Wildstalker in 2s all the time. There are some other builds that I'll probably mess around with, maybe playing with like melee or something, but for the most part, Wildstalker in 2s. I have it in my BG damage build, so that is based on like Arathi Deepwind type games where there is a little bit more solo content in there. I think I was playing this here, so also like small group content, I should say, because I do like playing Convoke again. I kind of play a very similar build than I do in 2s. I just have some different utility spells, I believe, on here. Yeah, I actually I dropped some of these talents over here to get some more of the range stuff. Anyway, yeah, so 2s build, BG damage build, because again, like I said, using up those, because the BGs, obviously you're going to want to play probably most likely going to be want to play wilds or early spring, so getting those instant wild growths out there are going to help out get more symbiotic blooms going, and just more healing all around, and obviously you get a better benefit from F-flow. You could also couple that with spring blossoms to get even more healing, because now that's an extra hot on your mastery. Your mastery can go bonkers for throughput wise, if you can kind of stack all this stuff up. And then my final build that I was using it for is like a max healing build. Okay, so this build was like shuffle, and it's like you just find yourself in a lobby that you can't do anything offensively. You can barely even get a clone off. You're just sitting there healing for your life from start to finish, which will happen. It already does, especially if you're versing Preservation of Ogres. So in this build here, I just kind of dropped all the damage space stuff and just have everything healing, making sure that I have improved rejuve. I'm having germination, thriving, reforestation, photosynthesis, as much healing as possible, and just stacking all of that on top of that with the Wildstalker buff. It's just really, really, really good throughput, just keeping up those rejuves as much as you can. And yeah, this is the most throughput you could probably get on this class at the moment. I think even more so than with Keeper, especially during those burst windows. And like I said, you can switch this out to Prosperity if you'd like. But yeah, so this is as much throughput as possible in there. So that's kind of the all I got on Wildstalker for now. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions or something I didn't cover, let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.